Hello, U.S. history students. Welcome. In this video, my hope is to introduce a different sort of unit that we are going to be trying together. We're going to do this unit as a way of coming back into school on the other side of spring break. And so this video is to introduce what I call the Politics and Christian Practices unit, to kind of lay the groundwork, talk about what it is, and maybe consider the reasons why I would have us try something a little different. I want to just start off by saying this is different. This will be a little different. It's different for me. I reshuffle and reshape this course every year, and this is a chance where I just want to say, look, we have built up an excellent rhythm and routine in this class, and you guys are doing extremely well. And I'm just so pleased and proud of that. And that rhythm and routine is not done. We are going to go back to it. But I do want to take a little bit of time to try something different, to try something new, to change our rhythm, to change what we do as a way of trying to hit a different part of us and maybe do work that feels a little different and that has a different impact. All right, so we're going to try something new. And in the end, what's the worst that can happen? I think the worst that can happen is we say, all right, well, that was a learning experience and we had some interesting conversations and we kind of reset our regular routines in U.S. history class. And now we're going to get back to that as we learn about World War II soon enough. So I don't know. To me, it seems like we've had such a good year so far that it's worth the risks of trying something a little different. And I believe you're going to find this meaningful because over the years, as I've developed this, it really has become very meaningful for me, and I've seen students report back that it's become very meaningful for them. So here's the idea here for this new unit. Rather than focus on a chronological period of time, I want to spend a bit of time, a couple weeks at the start of school again after spring break, exploring how an understanding of history plus our Christian faith can affect our political posture, can affect our political beliefs to some extent, but also maybe more deeply the way we engage in politics, the way we think about politics. That's been kind of a conversation in the background of our class for some time, but I think I want to move that from the background into the foreground, kind of make that be explicitly what we're talking about. And so how would we do that? How would we consider our political posture as young citizens of the United States? Well, there's a few ways we do that. This unit has a couple different components or ways that we're going to try to get at this. I mean, the first and simplest is discussing things in class, reflecting in class, doing a bit of conversations and writing in class, just talking about it. That's, I think, a good way into any topic or any kind of work. The biggest piece of this is going to be a short paper that we'll write. And like we did in semester one, we'll have a lot of time in class to work on it. We'll have some peer review in class. It's a smaller paper. In semester one, you remember you were writing a paper that was 4 or 5 pages. This is a 3-page political position paper that just says, we'll learn about this paper after spring break. But it's like, hey, take any topic, any political question, and why don't you articulate what you think about this? And let's consider how that is influenced or shaped by your Christian perspective or by some particular Christian practice. All right, so we'll learn all about that paper. We're going to set that aside. No one's writing or drafting anything over break. We're not worrying about that yet. One of the different things we're going to do is we're going to listen to a guest speaker who's been invited in. His name is Billy Russell. Billy Russell is a pastor. Billy Russell has a lifetime of experience engaging in politics from a deeply Christian vantage point. He's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Billy Russell is an African-American man who was on the front lines of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, and who sort of followed in the footsteps as best he could of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So we'll kind of listen to him and his ideas and his perspective of what it looks like to sort of to go into politics from the vantage point of being distinctly Christian. And finally, at the end of all those conversations, the last piece of this unit will just be an ask. It would be, well, why don't you try and have a conversation with someone else about politics where you ask them a bunch of questions and you just try to exhibit Christian ways of being. You try to exhibit the fruits of the Spirit with that person. And then you reflect later on what that was like. So again, this doesn't involve scrapbooks. This doesn't involve, Mr. Welle lecturing on all kinds of things. There's some storytelling, there's some listening, there's some reflecting, there's some writing. It's just going to feel a little bit different. And if we consider the why, like Mr. Welle, why would we do this? Why would we break up the routine? Why would we spend some time exploring all this? I think, well, first off, reason why is very similar to the formational research paper we did in semester 1. And that is just, I want to get you ready for the next level of school, get you ready for the collegiate level. And so sometimes that just means things like doing some reading and reflecting and then writing a paper about it. I mean, that's just kind of what you will do at that next level. And I want to make sure that as you move on to 12th grade and then to college, that you can be able to say, yeah, I like history class. I've done history class. I've done well in the humanities. And I know what it's like to write a paper. I know what it's like to kind of track that process out and build something that matters and that's meaningful and that is sound. And so I just want to give you more reps at an important skill. And we'll do this again slowly. My strategy is always, let's just go slow. Let's build something carefully that matters together. Let me give you time in class to practice. Let's do peer support. Let's have some time to reflect. So all that, so that, I want to help you get ready for that. And along the way, like your position paper and our work here will count as a grade, and I believe you're going to be successful in this stuff. So like one reason why is just getting ready for the next level, right? Fair enough. There's a lot of whys that go beyond that. Again, I taught U.S. history for many years without having something like this where I just said, let's just time out. Let's do a timeout from the quick treadmill of like historical stuff that happened in the past. Let's talk about American politics today and how that's influenced by history and our deeper understanding. And I think that the reason why I've decided in the last few years to try this unit is because there's just so much political brokenness that's so evident. I don't think I'm breaking any news on this stuff to you guys. I think you guys are front and center on it. But something I have watched since the time I was in high school to the time now where I'm helping you guys in high school is the country pulling apart, where Democrats and Republicans or liberals and conservatives are becoming more and more polarized or pulled toward the respective opposite side from each other. And it's harder and harder to find middle ground, common ground. It's harder to find issues that we can agree on. It's harder to find reasons why we would want to compromise or agree with each other. And if you're a person who says, I think it would be better if we compromise, I think it'd be better if we could find some middle ground, there's more and more people who say, no, compromise with them, no way, right? And the voices are becoming noisier and noisier, more and more hostile and combative. I've watched this play out. Have you seen this, students? One thing we can see over the last half decade or so, I suppose 10 years, 8, 9, 10 years, is more and more what we would just call bad faith interpretations of each other. So more and more Democrats who would say about Republicans that Republicans are closed-minded or dishonest or immoral. More Republicans who would say that Democrats are unintelligent or lazy or immoral. This isn't just, they see things a little differently or they have a little bit different value set than we do. But this is like, they're not as good people. We are better people than they are. We are more honest or more moral or more hardworking than they are. And the percentage of Americans who have a really difficult time having a good faith understanding of someone with a different political view than them, that's rising. That's rising rapidly. I suppose social media probably hasn't helped that. I mean, I'm not the first to break that news. I can't fix that, neither can you. Didn't seem like COVID helped it very much. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think COVID was politically helpful for us, but I didn't really see a lot of positive political benefits from COVID-19. So yeah, I'm watching this brokenness thinking, what are we going to do, friends? What are we going to do? I'm watching the political arguing, the messaging. I'm watching, if I can say this, my own students sort of getting pulled into these magnets on one side, right? On one side, again, you would just call it like woke or MAGA, like these sort of these terms, like, and more and more of my students kind of getting like yanked into those worlds and being unable to sort of say these are idols. I'm not gonna get stuck to either of these, but like people being told, like, aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid of what the right is going to do? Aren't you afraid of your rights being violated? Aren't you afraid of these guys or those folks? Or people being sort of animated by anger, right? Anger at this issue, this person, that person. And guys, when we get provoked with that anger button, when that anger button hits us or that fear button hits us, that can bypass all the rational stuff in us. That fear and anger hit the lizard brain parts of us. Right? And more of our politics has always been, seeking for those buttons a little bit, but more and more people like having the fear button pushed. As weird as that might sound, people like having the anger button pushed. It's what politics feels like for them. It hasn't been healthy for us. And so when I think about why this unit has popped up, yes, it has to do with college and grades, but it really has to do with, I think, just as I'm watching what's going on in our culture, in our country, I'm thinking, we should talk about this. This is American history class. This is a class that's about our American inheritance and how we can best care for it. We have this issue right now of political brokenness. And students, you're not going to fix it. I can't fix it. I absolve all of us. We are not going to fix the political problems of the United States of America, but we are going to think about it. We're going to reflect on it. We're going to consider little micro practices that might be restorative, that might be healing, that can maybe do a little bit of positive good in our little corner of the world. Because wouldn't it be silly to talk about an American history course and understand our American inheritance and never address this glaring need? So students, this is not about me going after one side or the other. I think everyone can share in the blame on this. And I'm going to tell you plenty of stories about how I share in the blame on this. I just want to consider it, write about it, listen to someone talk about it, practice being the good with other people. I think a lot of us, when we think about this, we've seen plenty of weird dysfunctional political approaches out there. In your own experience, maybe on social media, maybe in the hallways of school, maybe at home, I don't know. You've come across that person, or you've been that person who just can't stop political arguing. You bring it up all the time, whether people are interested or not, and you feel yourself getting more and more animated. Have we seen that? Have we noticed that? Have you been sitting on one side or the other of that conversation there between Jerry and Kramer? Have you been the Homer Simpson meme, where you've just said, I'm peace out on politics. Peace out. Maybe God calls us to be seekers of justice, and maybe politics is one of the ways we're supposed to do that, or we can do that, but I just am not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. And so we wade our way out, and we end up making more room, leaving more space for folks over here like Kramer who are just making more and more noise. A weird thing that can happen sometimes, even if we're not the one barking or we're not the one receding into nothing, we can get kind of hooked on cheering on the people who are losing their minds. Like Leo here in the clip, where it's like there's people out there politically in politics who lose their minds, or who go berserk on others, or we see some argument go back and forth, and we're kind of the people, we're not in the argument and we're not ignoring it, but we're just kind of chortling and chuckling at it in a way that in the end adds up to some dysfunction. I think there's plenty. Consider, students, do any of these memes speak to any ways that you've experienced or seen political dysfunction? Do any of them point to ways that maybe you play out some sort of political dysfunction or another? And so when I think about this unit, why we would do a detour, why we try something different, I'd say one need is we have a society that's kind of stuck in a dysfunctional politics, and I want to help my students see something else, see a different way forward. In fact, to see how the Bible might point us towards something a little different. We are doing real history work. It's not like we're just putting history on pause. We are doing some research and listening. reflection, writing, and analysis. We're doing real history work. So by no means is this like, hey, let's do a time out from history and let's do some other stuff instead. This is all still a history class and using our history skills just a little differently. Our real audience in the end will be a person that we just want to sit down and have a conversation with. But whether it's a person you're close to or someone you're just kind of casual acquaintances with, you can choose however you want to do it. And I think we will get a chance to be and live out the Seekers of Justice through line that we want for our students to be. We will talk and consider how we turn politics into an idol. And I hope that in doing all this, we will understood ways that we can better love others, not because we're perfect citizens, but ways that we can better love others because we've first been loved by God. So my deep hope, I want to name this as we sort of move toward the final stages of this intro. We can use Christian practices and use our skills and understanding of history to sharpen our distinctly Christian, our kingdom perspective on politics. Or maybe just put it differently, to grow in civic wisdom, to be people who grow in wisdom. And how can we grow in wisdom? We grow in wisdom by deepening and developing our understanding of American history and that story, and by deepening and developing and growing to love our Christian faith, the perspective that offers us, and the Christian practices that can shape our political approach. And when we allow our politics to be shaped by a Christian perspective, and we deepen our historical understanding, this can make us a little peculiar. This can make us a little different in the realm of politics. That doesn't look like either of those three memes, but looks a little different. We are people who believe things. Students, this is not about like erasing your political convictions. Christians ought to have deep, serious political convictions. But at the same time, we are called to embody the fruits of the Spirit, no matter what our convictions are. And in fact, if we can't embody the fruits of the Spirit, if we can't love others and be idolatry discerners and justice seekers, if we can't live these things out, then what will happen is politics will melt down our relationships. Politics will destroy them. I've had relationships destroyed by politics. Have you? Have you had relationships tested by politics? Relationships on our own can't survive political difference, not serious political difference. But relationships in which love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control are present, they can survive political difference. And we can be in relationship with others. We can love others through this. That's going to be my challenge for us. The Bible isn't always super clear on exactly what all of our political views should be. Sometimes it's unclear on that. The Bible is crystal clear on how we ought to treat others. And so considering that piece, I think, is going to be really important for us today. And we'll get a chance to do that on the back end of spring break. Lastly, I just want to show you a couple statements from students. As they finished up the unit last year, here's some things that students said. One student said, "I loved being able to develop my political beliefs and also show compassion for those who have different opinions than me." Another student said, "I love the political position paper. Being able to think through a topic, formulating our thoughts was more meaningful than a normal paper. It was an opportunity to expand our thinking about how we can bring a Christian perspective to politics." A different student said, "I definitely enjoyed the paper the best. It was life-giving for me to research and develop a thoughtful position on an important topic." Many students say that this unit is empowering for them, where it feels like it helps them to kind of feel like, I do have a political conviction. I do have a political belief. I have something that I believe and want to share. One person said, "I experienced fighting the sense that I'm always right." That's good. "I experienced fighting the sense that I'm always right and that people should believe what I believe. I got to embody gentleness and self-control during our conversation." And finally, "This unit helped grow me in my faith because it allowed me to have a meaningful conversation with someone that I disagree with politically, but was given guidance on how to have that conversation. I found it cool that this unit put an emphasis on listening to others. Our world needs more of that." If I have a simple thought for this unit is, let's try and consider the things and practice being the things that America needs more of. That's what we're going to do in our first couple weeks back. I'm looking forward to it. So you've got some reflection to do now. Thank you, students, and have a great spring break.